Hi, Mark here from the Tangent-Bound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangent-Bound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangent-Bound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangentBoundNetwork.com and see if Tangent-Bound Network is right for you.
We're not doctors, therapists, trained professionals of any kind, so if you feel you do need help, please reach out and get the help you need. We have a whole list of things on our files page over on Facebook at facebook.com/crazylifepodcast, and or just search on the internet for the suicide prevention hotline number, or go to NAMI.org or whatever resource you can find. But just please reach out for help if you need it. If you feel as though you're going to harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. And try not to be alone. Also, if you feel that way and you realize that you're writing a note or making plans of how you would do, like harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. That's a huge red flag. And lastly, please do not replace the idea of therapy with listening to this show. Again, if you need help, please reach out and get the help that you need, or contact us. We can try to help you find the help that you need.
Life sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time, stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to The Crazy Life, everybody. I'm Brian, and joining me as always, Heno.
No.
And also joining us is, Jen this week. So
she be working.
Yeah. She's working. So just the two of us this week, which, last week it was just me and Jen, so, whatever.
Yeah.
However,
for a nice little catch up.
For the next episode, we really have to get all three of us, because our next episode will be episode 300 for us.
Will it?
Yep.
And I'll be in Jamaica.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was laughing at, because it's like.
But I did join you from Jamaica before.
That is true. You did. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
God, that feels like so long ago now.
Yeah.
And I know it hasn't been that long, but man, that feels like so long ago.
A couple of years.
Yeah. And I don't know why. It just feels like so much longer than that even. Probably because this last year has felt like 5 years.
That's true.
So.
That's true. Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what I'm gonna bring with me.
I already told you.
I'll bring a laptop, so.
You mean recording-wise. I was going to say, all you need is Tuck Speedo and suntan lotion.
That's true.
Or sunblock,
Yeah.
Maybe a hat. Hat's probably a good idea.
I'll tell you. So Sharon finally learned she said, hey, already packed.
Oh, wow.
Which blew me away. Yeah, she's like, hey, will you check out my suitcase? And mainly she didn't. It's not, she took stuff out of it afterwards, but she had pretty much all of her clothes and stuff in there, and then just threw in her, because most of the weight of her stuff is shampoo and conditioner, and that it really is. It's product.
Yeah.
So she hands it to me, and I'm like, oh wow, that feels like you're well under 50. Because last time I was pulling stuff out of her suitcase and putting it in mine, and so
Yeah.
she finally learned that. She's like, yeah, I finally realized that we don't wear anything on this
Yeah,
trip.
right.
Just wearing shorts and shirts, and
Yeah.
you only need there's only one or two events where you need to even have long pants. So
Yeah, exactly.
it's like there's no point. So yeah, so I picked it up and then I put it on, grabbed the scale, and I was like, oh wow, that's just under 40 pounds. Holy cow!
And she's like, oh, and she just starts loading. She just puts
Stuff.
like 5-pound weights in there,
But the thing is that you do get there and you realize, wow, I didn't need to bring any of the stuff.
Yeah.
Like last time, I think I definitely wasn't overpacked, but there were things like, okay, I didn't need to bring as much of this,
Yeah.
or whatever it was,
Right.
like socks.
Yeah. Which is funny because, I've forgotten socks on a trip.
Yeah.
So. I definitely, I guess I didn't have, it was August in Indianapolis, so it wasn't like I had to have socks. I could just have worn my shoes, but I'm not that, I don't like doing that very often. Like, I don't know. I've always liked having socks on when I have shoes on. I don't know why. It just feels weird to me to not have them.
I will always, yeah.
Yeah.
When I have to wear, if I'm going to be wearing shoes, I'm going to have some socks on.
Yeah. The only time I don't is like if I'm going to grab the mail or I'm going to take the garbage out or something, I'll just throw my shoes on real quick and, who cares then?
And I just bring my water shoes. That's the one thing. It's like they're half shoe.
Right. Yeah.
And then on what was it, Monday? Monday, I was like, hey, we need your final payment. I'm like, final payment? I was like, oh yeah, this trip was more expensive. Oops.
Yeah, whoops-a-daisy.
Like, oh, I forgot. Yeah, because when we rebooked, it was just the time of year, and we had a really inexpensive trip planned in October,
right?
And this one was more expensive. And then there was the hotel rooms. I was like, oh wow, okay, yeah. I'm like, come on, IRS refund.
Yeah.
It literally hit the next day. I was
wow.
like, yes. Not that it was an issue, but it was just one of those like, oh, yeah, okay.
It makes you feel better, though, right? Like if you spend a lot of money and then you have an influx of money at that point, you can go, okay, I can relax.
Yeah, and my buffer was gone.
Yeah.
Because I have a ton of stuff to throw up on eBay and sell when I get back. It just hasn't been a priority. So I've been like, yeah, I'll just, I'll deal with that later.
Right.
But yeah, I missed last week because I got my second COVID vaccine shot, and when I got there, the line was actually the first time it was just down the hall upstairs. Now it was down the stairs, and they had the first floor marked off.
Oh wow! Now are these appointments or were they doing walk-in?
No, they're all appointments.
Wow.
Yeah, they're still appointments.
Excuse me.
But they're just. I mean, they're moving through. They're moving people through, but they're obviously stacking people up to just crank them out.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, and then they actually had extra rooms opened up for people to wait, for their 15 minutes. But yeah, this one messed me up pretty good. It's interesting. In some ways, it was as bad as my shingles vaccine, but in other ways, it wasn't as bad because the shingles vaccine, I had chills for I don't know, about 5 hours or so, but then it literally just broke.
Yeah.
I just had horrible cold chills.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, it just lasted a day, roughly. But it was a combo. I mean, it just felt like the flu. I mean, and but what was weird is it went up and down. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm a little motivated to do something. And now I'm out cold.
Yeah.
And then when I did get the chills, luckily it was a really hot day, so I just went on. I just put my shorts on and walked outside and laid on my lawn chair. I was like, "Oh yes!" Just the heat just let it absorb into me.
Right.
Was yeah. So that was a little rough, but it's so great to have that done. And then we had to have a COVID test on Tuesday. Got the results today. It's a negative, so we're all set to go. I'm excited.
Awesome.
I keep kind of waiting, for. Something to happen, and so now we're out of here, and that's really, it's great. Got dogs all set to be dog sitted here by Kiki, which is, just very. I'm just very reassured. But the funny part was Benny did a clear marking last night and is just starting to get a little too dominant with Bogart to the point where I actually feel bad for Bogart. Like legitimately. It's not like the puppy annoying. It's like, no, now he's and because I told you, I was like, let's leave the dog at the animal center and have him snipped the first day.
Yeah.
And Sharon was completely against it because what if something could happen anytime, she's like, yeah, but now you're on vacation and something happened. It's like, well, all right, fine.
Yeah.
You have a point there, but whatever.
Mhm.
She walks in last night. She's like, as soon as we get back, this dog's balls are getting snipped. Like, well, what happened?
Yep.
A little behavior action, because our vet was great about it. He's like, there's studies that say, one way or the other, it's like, do whatever fits your lifestyle.
Yeah.
You're not going to be wrong in either way.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of healthy dogs that have lived a long life that were, snipped at different times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but I think it'll be sooner than later. It's funny.
Yeah. Sounds like it.
Yeah. And then let's see what else. Oh yeah, we also had that because I wasn't on last week. I didn't get to talk about the week before that. We had your Ohio weather where you have a nice 65 degrees, and the next day you've got 5 inches of snow.
Yeah.
I was like, it was 3 to 5 solid. Like
Wow.
there was places where
Well,
I'm like, that's 5 inches of snow.
That's how it was here. Was it
Yeah.
a week or two ago? It was exactly
Yeah.
the same.
It
Like,
was just before.
where we were, it was only supposed to be, originally they were talking like 1, maybe 2, then it became 3, and then they're like, well, depending on how close to the lake you are and whatever, it could be 3 to 5. And seriously, 2 days before that, it was 80 degrees here. And then 2 or 3 days later, it was supposed to be in almost 70 again.
Now, granted, we didn't have that. I mean, it was warm. It melted off by the afternoon.
Yeah.
But we've just been partly cloudy, and which is great. We haven't had you haven't had to get the irrigation going.
Yeah.
It was nice to have that buffer. But a couple of show related things. So go figure. Why am I talking about that?
Yeah.
So our topic from 2 weeks ago ended up completely coming in handy for me because Sharon had shared something before we podcast. And then the next morning, she brought it up again and said something about like, well, you probably weren't listening. I'm like, well, no, you didn't tell me what it was about. you said this thing happened, but you didn't get into the details of it. And so she got into the details of it. I'm like, whoa, this is exactly what we talked about on the podcast last night. It was all about when not to say something.
Right.
And so I said, well, we really just talked about this and based on what the article I read last night, this is what happened to you. And she didn't like it. She wasn't happy to hear it.
Yeah.
She was very upset by what happened. But what I love and why I'm married to her is, by the end of the day, she came back and she said, you were right. And it was a great way to get into, because she needed to make an amends, basically. And she wasn't sure how, she was hoping that she hadn't burned any bridges or anything. But the article was a great way to come into it.
Yeah.
To say, this is what I did wrong.
Yeah.
Because the at first, to me, and this is something that this is for me a direct recovery aspect, and I'm glad I didn't say anything to Sharon about from a recovery standpoint, because we try to stay out of each other's sobriety, basically.
Yeah.
And but one of the things is, I can tell the difference between someone looking for justification for their reaction versus their part.
Ah, right.
And I heard her looking for the that why she was okay in what she said, or just any sort of justified, just something to justify her reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And I just know that it's so much easier to get into the solution when you are seeking your part in it.
Yeah.
And so she did, and it was great. It was really cool. And it was just a trip how that happened. Then the other part was my own thing that I had going that week, where I felt my own desires weren't being respected, and I wanted to say something about it, I came up with what I wanted to say because I didn't want to. I was afraid. I didn't say anything before because I came to me. I was coming across as nothing but passive aggressive, and I didn't want to be coming from that standpoint. I didn't want to have any sort of a vengeful angle to it or any sort of a, well, then this is going to happen. It's like, no, I just want to state. It's like the whole own your truth and leave it at that. And like we always talk about, pass the ball over the net.
Mm-hmm.
Let them play it back to you fairly. Don't freaking load it up with anything. And so I had the opportunity to bring it up in person. And Sharon had said something to me just before leaving the door. She said, you know what? Go with how it feels. I said, this is what I want to do. And she said, well, read the room, basically is what she said.
Sure.
And so I did. It was like one of those moments where it's like, this does nothing to create harmony. This would be a disharmonious moment the minute I say it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter whether I'm right or wrong. It's an instant moment of tension. And right now does not feel like a good time to do that. And it's like, wait for the right time.
Yeah.
And sure enough, just a few days later, it just rolled right in front of me. Like, okay, now's the time to say what I wanted to say. So I said it, and it went over fine.
Yeah. Well, good.
And everything was great. It's like, okay, cool. Yeah, that's awesome. And got back to doing what I was doing, and it felt really productive about it. So I'm a little right now. I'm feeling a little whistle bit, which is a term for big construction jobs before the whistle goes, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
About the vacation thing where it's like, oh, I got this to do and this to do and this to do. And I'm almost at that point of like, where it's like, well, that's not getting done. That's not getting done.
Sure.
And I don't care.
Yeah. It's always funny. Like, I was at GameStop tonight and the manager there, we were talking and he just got back from, I don't remember, it was a week or two in Florida, like on vacation with his family. And he was, he's just like, man, he's like, I'm still in vacation mode. And I told him or asked him, I said, when did you guys get back? And he's like, they got back 2 days ago. But he drove. So he, and he had stuff to do yesterday. And I said, yeah. I said, you gave yourself that buffer day, but you packed it. I said, you got to have a buffer day to where if you need to sleep, you can sleep, or just nothing really to do. I said, that's the tough part is, you can't always do that on vacations. You just sometimes the work schedule and whatnot just doesn't allow it. But he goes, yeah, you're right. And I told him about, how I mentioned it to you, and Jen, has done it. And I said, it's such a good move to just have that one day before you have to go back to work, to where you can kind of just get back into your regular routine without having to, I got to hurry up and do this, and this, and this before tomorrow, since I'm still off today. And he was like, yeah, he's like, that's a good call. And I told him, I said, yeah, I said, it helps a little, but it's like, look, we're all, no matter what, that first day back to work is brutal because you just don't want to be there.
Yeah. And that's the one I'm bummed about this is with the change of our days.
Yeah.
Like I'll be at work the next day. Luckily I'll have a good part of the day to, kind of relax and not necessarily. Yeah. I loved having the full day off before I have to go back to work. But, yeah.
Like
it'll
I said,
be fine.
Can't always work that way. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's so nice when it can, because it does help a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, no matter what, that first day back, especially, I mean, like you're coming from Jamaica to go back to work, he's coming from Florida where they were hanging out, in a real nice place that they had rented to stay, and you're coming back to go to work, it's like, it's so tough. Like, it's different if you go to, I don't know. Like, even for me, it's like if I went to like Disney World or something like that, it's a lot easier to go back at the end of it, because usually you're kind of like, okay, it's time to go home. But when you're
that's the thing with this is when you're coming from an all-inclusive where you've pretty much done nothing,
right?
Eat whatever you want to eat, drink what you want to drink, sleep when you want to sleep.
Yep. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. It is different. It hits Sharon a little harder than it does me, because I actually do the things that I do outside of work I really enjoy doing.
Right.
And yes, they become, lists and they become things renting space in the back of my head, but I actually really enjoy doing them and I enjoy accomplishing them.
Right.
So, but it really does come back, like Sharon kind of said, like, I really wouldn't mind if I didn't have to work anymore.
You better find the next crypto that's going to go crazy and buy in now.
That's I no longer say that. Well, what are you doing to head yourself towards that goal?
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
You always say that you know we're going to win the lottery someday, but I don't see you buying any tickets.
Yeah. You're just going to find one in a parking lot.
Yeah. Well, hey, you know what? Maybe that's how it's going to happen.
Yeah.
She's just going to manifest the ticket appearing out of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be crazy.
Yeah, so that's about kind of what's going on with me. How about you?
Right. Well, cool. Well, I go this Saturday for my second vaccine shot, so I'm looking forward to a fun weekend. And
I love Dev's advice.
yeah, that actually is really good.
Really good.
Yeah, and I before we all got our first round of shots, I had bought a good amount of Gatorade and stuff, just in case, and we had plenty of water. So I mentioned to everybody to, theirs is Friday, mine is Saturday. So I told them, I said, starting tomorrow especially, I said, make sure you're, getting as much water as you can and whatever. Because that all makes sense, that some of the stuff could be dehydration.
Yeah.
From it and stuff too. So, in worst case scenario, it's like, I mean, I know Gatorade's got, high sugar content, but other than that, it's like, it's not like you're really doing anything crazy or it's going to be that harmful to you, short term. So, it's worth trying anyway, because if it works, then great,
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. The only thing I'm afraid of is they get their shots Friday, and, I've already kind of set up a buffer just in case they can't take me Saturday. Because I was thinking about it yesterday, and I was like, I should set up a backup, because, if they wake up and they're feeling like hot garbage, I still got to go get my shot, So
Oh yeah.
I did that today. I asked my brother, and he said I figure worst case scenario, I'll get an Uber and go get it, So, it's not a huge deal either way. I knew it'd be covered because it's not that far away, so it wouldn't be terribly expensive or anything if I had to. But I know enough people that I figure somebody will take me over, and if needed, hopefully they won't have bad side effects and everything will be fine. But we'll see. So I finally got to go to therapy this week. Because when I called last week, to reschedule, she was kind of like, well, we have some on Monday at 11:15. And I'm like, and she's like, well, it's either that or it's basically going to be almost June. I'm like, well, 11:15 it is. So, because I didn't want to wait again if I didn't have to, and went in, and I talked about this a little bit on Salty Language actually this week. Because I talked to her about, school, and I had a conversation about thinking versus overthinking when it comes to making those kind of decisions. Because again, I want to make sure I think of all the angles I need to approach, but at some point you're creating angles, like you're creating any reason you can to keep the doubt train moving so that the decision train doesn't go anywhere, and I, and she made a great point to me, because I was like, look, I have this thing where, especially over the last, I don't know how many years, it's like I either start something and don't finish, or I just don't start it. And she was like, well, so what if you don't finish? She's like, you can still learn stuff along the way. You still are going to take whatever classes you take. So even if you go for part of it, you still get whatever knowledge you get. And I was like, yeah, that is true. And again, of course, something I hadn't considered, because, that would be trying to positively reframe things. And my brain's not in that mode right now. It's in, like I said, it's trying to keep the doubt train moving. It doesn't want me to switch over. But yeah, it was a good talk. Came out, felt lighter, like I tend to do. And again, that to me is like, okay, that was, feels like a good session for me. I feel like, I got some movement, got a little correction for my course, and I still am not 100% on my decision about what I am or I'm not going to do, but, it at least gave me, it broke the cycle for me. It broke the doubt, so that at least it allows me to think of other stuff now instead of just, only creating a negative list. Like, okay, well, there still can be positives, even if you don't finish. There's still things, because, I've been in school various times before, and I definitely learn stuff every time. So it's not like it's a waste, and you're not a failure if you quit going, type of a thing. So, it just needed that, reaffirmation of those things. So I'm glad I went, and, well, obviously I'm glad I went, but, but it was weird how, the night before I barely slept. I maybe got an hour of sleep because my brain just kept, don't forget to talk about this. Don't forget this. Don't forget that, and I just could not shut it off. And, it's because I hadn't been in there in so long that I had so much I wanted to talk about, and you've only got so much time. So I want to cram as much of it. Like, I want to basically have my list compiled so that I can prioritize. If I have 10 things that it's like, okay, I want to talk about, it's like, okay, well, these can wait. These can't. These are things you need to address. These other things are things you've been dealing with for like 20 years. So, they'll wait another week or a couple weeks till your next session. So yeah, anyways, it was, so it was good. It was been a pretty decent week. Other than that, nothing really gone on. Went out for a little bit with my brother today, which is, it's just nice to get out of the house for a little bit for something. I hung out with Tony last week, and it was, I mentioned to him on Salty Language, I was like, it's the closest I felt to like a normal scenario in a long time. Cause we got together, we went up to the brewery that's up the street from me, got some beer. Then we went over to, a taco place right by him, had dinner, and then we just hung out at his place for the rest of the night. And it was like, it felt like kind of like how we used to hang out. We get together, maybe hit a brewery. At the end of that, say, grab dinner, say, okay, let's just head back to your house and, kill the rest of the night kind of a thing. It felt so close to normal, aside from having to wear masks in between at different points, But other than that, it was so nice to have that feeling again, and it's so amazing. Like, we all know how much we've taken for granted through this, but it's still good to have those reminders a little bit to like, hey, don't take this stuff for granted. This is how easily, completely out of your control, normal can just go away.
Yeah.
So, it's, got to put in Dead Poet Society and,
Well, I was thinking about that at work this week. There's been several occasions where we're maybe not as diligent with wearing masks or whatever, but that's because, everyone's had their vaccinations or, but we're still talking, we're still maintaining some distances. We're in well-ventilated areas or, blah, blah, blah. And like in our office ourselves, when we sit down, it's like, we're still wearing masks and that kind of stuff. But it's like what you said, it's nice to feel something that's somewhat normal, but to not go completely off the deep end. And totally ignore everything.
Right. And just on the flip of that, in the reminder to not get too comfortable too quickly department, the manager at GameStop was telling me that they had an employee who's tested positive for COVID a few days ago. So he basically yesterday or today, I don't remember which it was, I don't remember which day it was anyway, but he had to, go in way early, and they had to, scrub the store head to toe basically because of that. So, and that's close. That's still close. It's like I said, just when you start, things are feeling this and this, it's like, oh yeah, this is still out there, so, you can't let your guard all the way down, but at least, we've done what we can do. Like I said, we're getting the shots, still wearing masks when supposed to, and all that kind of stuff. So I can't really do much else aside from just stay home. And that's really it. That's the only other thing I could do is just not go out. So it's and it's hard.
Hey, I feel that way about the vacation still.
Yeah.
Like yesterday was the first time I've even felt remotely excited.
Yeah, which is weird
because I'm very conscious of what's going on around the world for a reason.
Yeah.
Because people are dying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I want to, we've talked about this so much, but it's still that it ties in with just doubt in general for me. And when it ties into mental health in so many different ways, because there's that part where we all, in anybody's recovery, you're given some parameters of what it's going to take to recover.
Yeah.
And there are pitfalls that are going to set you back from your recovery. But the pitfalls are usually the things that are kind of fun.
Yeah, true.
Right?
Yeah.
And so and the defense mechanisms and the denial, and on the other side, the part where you're just really rigid and you're sticking to your recovery. And it ties so much into this for me. And maybe that's why I've applied that towards, the response that we've had in our community, which is like, okay, well, when I do certain things, this is the outcome that happens for myself personally in my recovery. Well, let's try that same philosophy with keeping my family's health.
Yeah. And
maintaining that. And so far it's worked out. And, are there, and it's the same thing with with recovery too. We will put ourselves in a risky situation sometimes, but we're making a judgment call. We're weighing this.
Right.
That a night of drinking is going to mess with your meds. So the next day might be a little bit of a hangover, or that this particular, a certain event might trigger something inside of you, and which might also lead to like an emotional hangover the next day.
Right.
And so we do those things, and it's just, it's a little different that there is, for all of us, there's always a chance. It's the whole thing about, there's always a chance of being dead or in the hospital. Yes, true.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's still, it's interesting. I haven't really thought about it till just now about that. It's very similar.
Yeah.
That comparison,
yeah.
And the adjustments we make.
Mm-hmm.
If you're willing to make adjustments for your own personal health and, mental health and well-being, now we're making those adjustments also for our physical health and well-being.
Yeah. Yeah.
And which also then, actually gives me a little level of understanding of those people that seem to they just don't care.
Right.
And we know that there's plenty of people that do not care about their own personal health and well-being, mentally or physically.
Right.
Or the people around them.
Pandemic aside, like before it even was
that's
around.
What I'm saying.
Yeah.
But pandemic, like the person that just walks in and doesn't care about how their attitude affects the other people around them.
Yeah.
Well, why would you care about anybody else's health then? That's kind of interesting. Maybe give me a tiny little bit of compassion.
Well, I think too, it's interesting because I was talking with somebody about this the other day about, how tough it's been at times to do this or do that during all this. And, I'm like, and I know part of that has to do with my, my control issues because, the hardest thing to do for people like us is to let go. And right now it's like we want to control everything because you feel like with control comes safety. even though, like you've said, it's like there's times where you're like, look, I'm as safe as I can possibly be and still do something, whereas it's like otherwise you're not letting yourself do anything, so you kind of have to gauge it. And I think that, that's been tough for me to just let go of that control. Cause like, well, if I do this and I do this, then I'm safe, or I feel safe, whatever.
But isn't it a little bit easier with in some ways, it should be easier with our reaction to the pandemic because A, we're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
B, other people don't have the same opportunities either. It's not like, okay, I've decided this week that it's finally time. I need to look at, trying to be sober, this and that, but there's this concert next week.
Yeah.
And I know that, or, for someone with a mental health issue that, okay, well, there's going to be a lot of people and it might trigger my anxiety. We're just like, well, there is no concert.
Yeah.
There is no crowded room full of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And everybody's in the same boat that I'm in, which it actually should be easier for people to adjust to this than it would be for the limitations of their recovery, because it tends to be an inside job.
Yeah. Yeah, and most of the time with those things, most people don't understand what you're dealing with.
The other people that are, your friends, whereas this case, pretty much everybody knows what,
Yeah, yeah, it is interesting.
Funny.
Yeah. So, I think that's pretty much it for me for the week, too. Like, so it's been, mostly not eventful aside from, just being inside my head, but not feeling like it was in a bad way this time, feeling...
Yeah.
A little more, and also the ability to get outside of my head for for a little while. I will say this, I mentioned this on Salty Language also, that when talking with my therapist about the whole like not being able to finish things or whatever, is like I've said on that show a few times that like I've got a stack of video games that I haven't even started, let alone finished, and then I've got a bunch that I've never finished, and I don't know why, like I just stop. And, so I've been trying to force myself to play, like I had started Grand Theft Auto. I only had like 5% of the game done, and I've had that game for a while, right? Like I basically played long enough to where, cause you have to go through like an intro mission and like one other little thing before you can ever play online. So I did enough to be able to play online, and then never played any more of the story, basically. So I've been forcing myself to play the story, and I've got it up to about 17-point-something% now over the last week. And it feels like crossing a little something off of a to-do list, even though I haven't finished the game, but it's progress, right? And that made me feel really good that I did that. And of course, I enjoyed playing the game too. It's like, there's a reason why I bought it, because I knew I was going to enjoy playing it. But much like a lot of things with depression, anxiety, you lose interest in things that you previously found joy in. And I don't think I had realized how bad it had gotten until like I was moving my games around, because where I had them, I dusting the shelf and stuff, and I reorganized them a little bit, and I put a stack of like, these are ones I've beat, these are ones I haven't, and I was like, wow, I got a lot of games I've bought and have not even played. Like, what are you doing? So that's like recently Sony had a sale on games, and I'm looking and I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing right now? You have a stack. It's bad enough with books. Like anybody who's a reader pretty much will have like stacks of books that's like, I'm going to get to these, but they keep buying new books, But I've mentioned on this show and Salty Language how, I've got all these podcasts I haven't listened to. There's all these shows I want to watch. There's all this stuff to consume that I don't do. And it's like, so I've got to do either stop buying and consume what I have,
Yeah.
Which is really the better answer. I can always keep a list of books I want or games I want to play, and then go, okay, you know what? I've played most of what I have, and then, or if it's like, dirt cheap or something, to where it's like, hey, it won't be cheaper than this. Maybe I'll go ahead and grab it. That's not so bad. Now, a lot of the games I have, that's what they've come to, is that there's been a really good sale on them, and that's why I bought them. But still, you know, it's like I told Tony I been playing a lot of the same video games because I want to listen to podcasts. And that's when I listen to podcasts, was when I play video games. But a lot of the games I want to play, you have to hear the dialogue in the game, or you got to hear sounds in the game, right? So you can't listen to something else. So I've switched to where now I'm listening to a lot of podcasts before bed instead of watching. A lot of times I turn on like Ridiculousness and watch like 6 episodes of it. It's like, well, this isn't new. It's not. I'm not consuming something that I've been wanting to consume. I'm just watching this because it's on, and it's basically just background noise. It's like, so I might as well just put on podcasts I want to listen to, and you know, actually make progress on those. And I've been making progress on back episodes of that. So it's like, you know, moving things to different slots has gotten me feeling slightly more productive in my consumption of media. In nothing else, but at least in that aspect of my life, I feel like I've made some progress this week. So, you know, and of course my therapist made sure that, you know, I recognize that that's a win. And I told her, I said, I fully understand that. I said, and I told her, I said, I'm going to mention on the podcast that I'm celebrating that win, which is not like me. And I know to most people, they'd be like, so what? You played video games. But like I said, you have to understand me to know that this was a major move.
This is where I relate to this. I buy a lot of music.
Yes.
I listen to it once and then that's that. Now I could say, you know, I'm supporting artists that I like and this and that, you know, and the same thing goes with my recording software. Yeah. I buy a lot of stuff because it comes on sale and it's something I wanted to try. Well, there's a lot of it that sits around not being used at all. And for me, the win is addressing the source of my buying.
Yeah.
Which tends to be there's some sort of, I have to have some sort of a sense of lack.
Yeah.
If I keep buying stuff that I don't even use.
Right.
I might use.
That's like Tony and I were talking about that because he recently got another computer and he was trying to import his passwords and bookmarks and all this, and he was having trouble with the bookmarks, and he goes, I guess I don't really need those. And I'm like, no, I was like, the way to look at it is it's a forced purge.
Yeah, a cleansing opportunity.
What it does is it gives you that opportunity to go, look, if I can't remember it and it doesn't pop into my head, I probably wasn't using it. So I don't need it. And you don't want to have 1 million bookmarks in your stuff anyway, you know? So I was like, it's a great opportunity to basically get rid of stuff you don't use anymore, you know? And he's like, oh yeah, that's a good point. And I was like, I've gone through it a few times, so I understand. Because what I've noticed is when I do import the bookmarks, I almost never go to them. You know, like certain ones, but it'll be like the ones I go to every day. And it's like, well, those I'll pretty much remember. You know, so I don't really need the ones that I get disappointed about are like recipes that I'll save the bookmarks to, because there's times where I do go back to them, you know. But what I've just started doing instead is when I find a recipe I like, I print it out. That way I always at least have a copy of it. That way because, you know, some of the cooking sites that I've gotten things from are small, you know, where it's someone's blog, they cease to exist at some point, or they change the links or server or whatever, and then they're dead links, you know. So it's like, well, if I print it out, here it is, I have it, and I can just keep it in a thing with recipes, you know. So, or I could, you know, keep it in an email or something like that where it won't go away, you know, like in Dropbox or something. But it made me find better solutions to what I was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like this idea of like, if I'm willing to be critical of with myself, I would say, is there something you're missing? You know, is there something that you don't have?
Right.
Is really like is you know, I have a lot of curiosities, which I'm okay with. Like my guitar stuff. I love playing with pedals.
Yeah.
I want to try it, see if I like it. Oh, I heard, you know, so and so use this way, so I bought one.
Right.
You know, most of the time, and then I'll sell it.
Yeah.
That's not a big deal. but there's other things that are just a little different. I'm not going to be selling software. I'm not going to be selling music. Like if I download or see. I mean, sure I could, but it's just not worth it. So it gets to the point where it's like, okay, at what point do I, like, can't I say I have enough? Can't I say I can sit down and enjoy what I have already?
Yeah.
And it's a long. I mean, this goes back in the conversations you and I have had. Now it's been years, and it's a lifetime.
Yeah.
This is a lifetime practice for me that I would love to break.
Well, and it's really tough on media stuff, I think, too, like video games, movies, music, that kind of stuff. Because new stuff comes out, just the same as if you only went and saw movies in the theaters. Well, new movies, the last year aside, new movies were constantly coming out in the theater. Well, you want to go see them. So you go see them, right? And it's like, well, you've got, 300 DVDs at home or whatever. It's like, I want to see the new stuff,
Yeah, there's also entertainment value with that.
That's what I'm saying, like with music, so I get it. Like, even when you buy it, it's like, well, yeah, but I still,
Yeah, I guess you're right. And if I'm willing to put it into perspective, a lot of times is it's like, okay, A, there's the supportive artist, which I like. And B, it's from a cost standpoint, even if I listen to it once, that was a better $10 spent than, the coffee drink and the pastry at Starbucks.
Yeah, exactly. And there is, even though it probably may not happen, there is always that chance of repeat entertainment value.
Yeah, and more than likely there will.
Same with video games, in that I rarely go back and play a game once I've beat it, unless there's like multiple characters or multiple storylines, unless they have like Grand Theft Auto or Call of Duty, how they have the online component, so you can keep playing with people online. But if it's just a game that I'm playing by myself, I complete the game, I'm probably not picking it back up. Like, there's a slight chance I will, but it's pretty rare. Because usually there's other games. So instead of playing the same game 3 times, I'd rather, in the past more so, I'm trying to get back to that, to where it's like, I'd rather do that than go get a new game and have a new experience than just play through a game again, unless that game does offer a new experience in multiple play. And a lot of games do try to deliver that to where you can play the story mode, like, different ways, and you can play as a good guy this time or a bad guy, or whatever. They try to give you some options so it changes, so that it gives you a chance to play multiple times, but other than that, it's like, once I'm done with it, it's kind of like books. I'm the same way. Once I read a book, I rarely ever pick a book back up, once in a while, but it's really rare. Because again, I have such a long list of books I want to read.
I'll tell you, that's where the listening thing has been just awesome.
Well, see, that's my problem though, is I've already got a long list of podcasts. I don't have any room in there.
that's what I've done, is I've made a choice. I'm not listening to podcasts that much anymore. Maybe 1 or 2 a day for the most part, but I'm listening to books now.
Right.
And I'm listening to books that I've already read before a bunch of times and loving it.
Yeah.
Now, see, some of the best entertainment right now.
That's probably where I would get the most enjoyment out of audiobooks. Like, initially, I still want to read the book myself, but I could see it as like a revisiting. Also, the fact
revisiting is great.
Also, depending on who's reading it and whatnot, it can give a different entertainment experience. So I can totally understand, especially if it's like a book that is whatever, fantasy based, let's say, and it's like, well, this isn't going to be a movie probably, but listening to the audio book of it is as close as I'll get to having a movie. It'd be kind of fun to do that. I can totally understand doing that. I know other people who do that too, where they'll listen to this, books they've already read, over on audio version. I don't, it's so weird to me how my brain just does not like audiobooks. I love podcasts, but audiobooks, it's like,
It's funny.
Learn all day on podcasts, but forget trying to, read anything educational or even for fun on audiobooks. It's just, I don't know. It's just got to be just right for me. So, yeah.
You want to hear a kind of a heavy drop that Sharon laid on me?
Okay.
It's a good conversation piece.
Oh, okay.
Said, aren't you glad you don't have to support me.
Yeah.
So there's a couple angles to this, because at first I looked over, because we talk about this a lot, like just that she's the type of person that wants to work, that she but she really doesn't. Like, she'd be perfectly happy not having a job.
Right.
She enjoys walking the dogs and this kind of stuff. But here's the thing that was interesting to me about it, is because the reason she brings it up is because she knows if that's who she was when we met, we wouldn't be in a relationship together. If she was the person that expected whoever she's with to support her.
Yeah.
Right? Like, she's never wanted to be that person, and she knows I've never wanted to be with that type of a person. Mm-hmm. But what was interesting is within a few minutes, I went, well, there's another reason. Because if I had to support you, that would mean something happened to you.
Yeah. Where
you couldn't provide for yourself.
Right.
And that bad thing could be a health-related thing or a mental health-related thing.
Sure.
And I'm like, yes, I am glad. However, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Because that's something different. If something happened.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I would change it. I would make whatever changes were necessary. There's no question about it.
Sure. Yeah.
But it was interesting how such a simple little, this is literally like, we're in the kitchen. Yeah. I'm just, it was probably, my day off. It was probably like a Friday, or just drinking some coffee, whatever, just fed the dog something, and just, she's opening the refrigerator and just throws that out, and I just sat there for a second, and I just was like, where do you come up with this stuff? But it was actually really kind of cool. Yeah. Because it made me really think about something that I hadn't. My whole attitude is like, what do you want to quit your job and just, I'm going to support you? Yeah. Good luck with that one.
Yeah.
We ain't going to Jamaica, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
We're making some choices.
Yeah.
But I like that it directed me towards that, which is, again, that conversation I had with my mother about, okay, this is, your son and daughter have talked about it, and this is what we'd like to do.
Yeah.
In your future. And these are really great conversations to have, and they can come across as heavy at first, but I think in the end they become lightening.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so too, because a lot of times I think what happens is, you carry that burden, and when you talk with someone else, they share the burden then, so it's lighter for both of you. Like with you and your sister, and then to speak to your mom about it also. Now you're not all carrying it individually, it's I think that gives you a good team effort on something heavy instead of just one person. So yeah, that's really good. That is
and
fun.
I think also, like with Sharon, it's like there's, she gets stressed when her main job that she has is basically a part-time job, and then where she makes extra money doing the personal assistant, and that can be kind of emotionally draining on her.
Yeah.
And she finds herself kind of emotionally eating, or what any of us do when we're in a stressful situation. Sure. We find escape and release, and in maybe some ways she might be prepping for the fact that she might just have had enough of that one.
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
And we'll be, and again, it's like, I'm glad we can have those conversations.
Yeah.
And that we don't have a bunch of fights and that kind of stuff, and that we can talk about something kind of heavy and talk about it realistically without bringing a bunch of emotion into it.
Right. Yeah.
That's just a huge blessing. I mean, talk about just gratitude.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I think we've had a show.
Yeah, I was just looking at that, and we're at like 54 minutes. So
that's good. I got a couple of quotes to take us out when we're ready.
Okay. You want to save it for the very end?
I will.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm just letting you know.
All right. That's what I was asking. Yeah. All right. Well, I guess as Jen says, if you'd like to continue the conversation with us, you can. Oh boy, I got to pull this up because I don't remember. It's been a while since I've had to go over this myself. If you want to visit our website, it's thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com. Our email is thecrazylifepodcast@outlook.com. The show Twitter is @thecrazylifepod. Jen can Jeez. Jen can be found on Twitter at Jen's Crazy Life. That's Jen with a G. And Mr. Heno, how about you?
You can find me on Twitter at Ida Heno. Find me on Facebook, Heno Heiter. And check out my other podcast, Moving the Needle, where I am editing right now our verses of Speed versus Point Break.
Nice.
It was a little Keanu head-to-head. So I might get that done in the next couple of days. And then tomorrow night, we're actually recording... This is great. We're going back and watching some old movies, and we watched The Sting.
Yeah.
With Paul Newman and Robert Redford, and we're going to do a podcast on it, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm really enjoying going back and watching old films, and one of the main reasons is because if it was a new film today, maybe it wouldn't be done this way, so It feels different. It has a different pace and a different timing. And, sometimes it doesn't make it better. Sometimes it does. Mm-hmm. But what's cool about it is it's just different.
Yeah.
And it's a different flavor. And so, if you've never seen The Sting, which I honestly had never watched it all the way through.
Really?
I hadn't.
Wow.
It's been on the background. I've seen parts of it before.
Yeah.
7-time Academy Award winner, or 7 Academy Awards, I think it was.
Yeah, something.
And it was great to finally watch it.
Yeah, I had never seen it until, I don't know if you remember, like way, way long ago, in like between 98 and 2000, when AFI did the top 100 movies of all time list. Yeah. When I worked at Hollywood Video, we had a section that had all 100 movies in it.
Oh, cool.
So I was literally going through and watching as many of them as possible. There were a few where I was like, there's no way I'm going to like this. And I just kind of skipped a few, but I watched a lot of them. And that was the first time because I don't remember if this thing was on there, or it was somewhere around that time though that I watched it. And so that's also the last time I watched it. So, it's been a long time, but I remember it being really good. I'm like you. It's like it'll be interesting to see it now, 30 years later, to see how well it holds up. Because at that time, it was an old movie. Because it's from the 70s or 80s? I can't remember.
70s.
70s? That's what I thought. Okay. So, at that time, it was 20-some years old, basically, or at least 20 years old, roughly. So it had already been around for a while. But now... like you said, the pacing, the way it's acted, all this other stuff, obviously content, because I don't remember, so it's always kind of interesting to go back to those movies you have that fondness for and see if they still hold up. Because there are some movies that, you go back and you're like, wow, I remember this being really good. What happened? It just isn't working now.
I'm no longer 7 years old.
Yeah. So, that'll be interesting to hear how you guys, because I don't know when the last time any of you have seen it or any of that kind of stuff. So it'll be interesting I always like seeing the movies essentially via the show through all of your eyes, Yeah. Because I like hearing how what they think of movies, especially when you have different ages, like with you guys having Stephanie, who's younger than, some of you and whatever. So it's interesting when you have different age perspectives in
that
there
contrast
too.
Yeah, and then also just the standpoint of someone that knows more about film versus someone that just looks at it as just entertainment. Those perspectives are great too.
Yeah So I can definitely recommend not watching the sequel, but I remember that being not good, but who knows, maybe it'd be great on the rewatch.
We came up with for our guest for Speed versus Point Break. We gave him a mission, and that is to do a versus of sequels. So Rocky 5 versus Die Hard 5.
Okay.
Right?
Wow.
So we're and it has to be something where the original was good.
Yeah, okay.
But then you've gone so many sequels in, and so the how far off did this franchise get?
Nice.
So hopefully he's going to come up with some juicy ones.
I think the one you just gave there actually is doable.
That was the one we kind of
Yeah.
that came up. I was like,
Because those are both pretty far away from the original, but also
but still there.
still there. Yep. I don't think either franchise needed to go 5 movies, but whatever. What do I know? All right. Well, if you want to find me on Twitter, you can find me at Stunami. My other podcast, which can be found at salty_language or at saltylanguage.com. That show is not safe for work, and it's just me and my best friend talking about all sorts of stuff. This week we talked about a lot of food. Like, we didn't, no real intention on it. Like, my list of things only had one food-related note, but I ended up writing, I think, like 4 or 5 things down easily. So
A lot of food.
But we talked about cauliflower tacos and the Marvel Phase 4 trailer, the Pokemon card craze again, and how some stores are having to lock up boxes of cereal because they have a thing with 3 Pokemon cards in them.
Oh, Lord.
I checked my local Target while I was there tonight to see if they were one of the stores locking them up, and they were not. So, of course, I tore all the boxes open and took the... No, I didn't. They actually had quite a few of the boxes. I was really surprised. So, I don't know if the cards are just commons or what, but, whatever. Anyway, so we talk about a bunch of that stuff. So, if you're interested in any of that, please give us a listen. Again, show's not safe for work. So, be careful.
NSFW.
We are part of the Tangent Bound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com. So please go check out the other shows on there. And I think that's all the links. If you need help, please reach out. There's all sorts of people out there willing to help you. And also please check in on people. Like I said, I saw a great tip a few weeks ago of, pick someone in your contact list or your DM list on one of your social medias and reach out to them and just see how they're doing, especially if it's someone you haven't talked to in a while. And then, of course, as always, please be nice to one another. Please show kindness when you can, and if you can help somebody, please help somebody. So, oh man, I was in the grocery store a few days ago, and where they have like the bread at the very end of the aisle there, they have like Hostess, snack cakes and all that kind of stuff. And this older woman was trying to reach for one, and they had one box of I forgot what it was she was trying to get, and she's got her cane, and she's trying to balance, and I'm a good distance away, and I'm trying to get over there as quick as I can, and I get over there, I'm like, you want me to get those for you? And she goes, oh, that'd be so nice. She probably would have gotten them. Because the rubber end on the cane, she could keep pulling the box till you get it to the end and then kind of roll it over, but it's like, I can just reach up there and grab it, like so much easier, and she's like, thank you so much. It was funny though. There was another older woman standing off to the side and her grandson was with her, and she kind of like hit him in the shoulder and she goes, why didn't you go help that lady? And I love it. I was like, wow, I helped That's someone funny. And got someone in trouble all in the same move. But, anyway, so like I said, if you can help somebody out there, please do it. Even if it's just something minor like that, just, put the good energy out there. So, yeah. All right. So I guess with that, Henno, you want to take us out of here?
Yeah, never be defined by your past. It was just a lesson, not a life sentence. I love that. And remember, when people treat you like they don't care, believe them.
Yeah, I've always liked that one. All right. Well, we'll talk to you next week. And as Jen always says, keep wiggling them toes.
And have a beer, you'll be fine.